I'm from Argentina, and I went to film school there. So I graduated before the end of last century. Then I worked in a production company for documentaries, actually, for a while. And then when I came to New York, almost 20 years ago, I always did shorts on the side, and then like 7 years ago, I started writing feature films, and I wrote one that was a bit expensive to make, with more, a bigger cast, more locations. So as that one was getting financed, which it still is, I wrote a cheaper one, and that one also was not as cheap as I wanted to, so then I wrote this one that was actually the one that was an easier film to make. It's just 3 actors, 2 main actors, a smaller crew, mainly like natural light, available lights. Sometimes an idea comes to you or an image or something, and this film started just with the title, with like end of the century. And I didn't know what it was, so I started basically just writing, and I started writing from okay, I'm gonna think of the most basic scenario. So I thought, okay, a man arrives in a town that he doesn't know, almost like the most classical beginning of every novel, I guess. And I kind of started discovering the story as I was writing it, and then he meets this other guy, they have sex, then they talk, and then the conversation realizes actually maybe they met before, maybe they met at the end of the century, of last century. So then the movie goes back to that first encounter in 1999. And I kind of followed that, And the movie, as I said before, it's the first festival that I sent it to, which is one of my favorite festivals. It got in, and then it's been going on. I just got back from Seattle 2 hours ago. It's now in LA, San Francisco. It's everywhere in the States, so it's doing really well. What I hope to get out of it is just, to definitely to get financing faster for those movies that I wrote, and of course have this movie reach more and more people and a bigger audience as well. I always loved writing and directing, and I feel like the technical side of that I learned in films, I was still doing the classes okay, but I wasn't paying as much attention as I was with other subjects that I liked better. I wish I would have retained or be a little bit more interested in sound, for example, or photography, Even though now, of course, I work with sound designers, but it's nice to have that extra knowledge. Shooting is really great, but it's also really painful because, of course, many things go wrong and you have no time, and there's always things that go wrong. It's a very intense, amazing feeling that once you're over, you're like, how did I just did this, But then 2 days later, you want to do it all over again, Being able to surprise yourself in shooting is really, really important, actually in every stage. Then we are working with people's ideas. Film is all about collaborating. It's about having a team. But it's important to have a vision as well. So it's a very it's a balance between those two things. Sometimes if your vision is too strong and too strict, people will get frustrated because you don't allow them to do their work. Of course, you hear a lot of ideas. In one of the shorts that I did, I feel that I made a little bit of a mistake. I hired an editor that was very good, but his voice was a bit different than mine, and I feel like that in the final product, that actually ended up damaging the film because it ended up being a hybrid. It wasn't really his film, but then it became I felt like it wasn't really my film as well, I think the most important thing of film school, at least to me, is to create a network of people who are in your same or similar, point in your career, and then you can help each other, once you start making movies or working in the industry. It's good to have all these people that are in your same level. My film school, it was very focused on being great at a craft, at one specialty. But I think to me the most important thing and what people react the most is actually having a voice, really find in yourself what you are about. The more specific you are with yourself and the more honest you are with yourself is actually what will make you the most successful, I think. People connect with that. And it's really not about being perfect at a craft, If the craft that you're making is actually connected to something that's very true to yourself, then great. But if it feels just a little bit forced, I feel like you should almost look to yourself and really find your voice and hone in that voice, really work that voice, and I feel like that's the most important thing, in film.